What did you get in this pizza? The ingredients are so weird.
Ninja Turtle style!
What?
Come on, man, we gotta eat it Ninja Turtle style!
Really weird ingredients, though. Hey, welcome to Throw Punch Lunch. My name is Bobby, and this is We'll Learn As We Go, where I'll be talking about a game and how I would teach it. This week, we're going to be covering Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. Let's get down to the table. This game is a one versus all game, and so my advice for games like this is usually the player that knows the game the best can take the role of the villain. That way, it cuts the teaching time down to half, and the other players can take advantage of the cooperative nature of the game. Some games are best taught when everything's already set up and ready to go by the time the players sit down. This game is a really appealing visual game, and so I suggest that this game is one of them too. Also, all 4 turtles are required to play, so it's not like players pick some characters and put the rest in the box. So go ahead and set all of them up, and then let the players pick what turtles they want to play. While the components are out, you can point out things briefly like the player dice that the players will use, the player boards as well as the statistics on them, and life points, the terrain cards that will affect movement, and the different tokens they'll use, like focus and KO tokens. Let them know that you'll detail all of these at the end, and also let them know what the victory conditions for the mission are, but reassure them that you will re-emphasize this at the end as well. In my introductory video, you might remember that there are different methods that I use to teach a game. For this game, I would use the different player actions that they could take on their turn. However, before getting to the crux of that, there are 2 things that I would want to cover first. Round structure. Cover quickly that a turtle goes, players can decide who goes first, and then the villain goes, and then the turtle goes, until all 4 turtles have taken their turn. Also quickly describe the mechanic that a player will take their actions based on what dice they roll, but a turtle can also share the dice of their neighboring players. So for example, Donnie here can use his 3 dice, as well as this dice from Mikey, and this dice from Leo. Since you covered the dice, it'll naturally transition into the player actions that you'll take. Now that you've touched on the player dice, you can talk about each icon and what they represent. This is the easiest icon to explain. Explain that when this comes up, they'll be able to choose what side of the dice they want. They'll be able to gain a focus token. Once you explain the focus tokens, you'll be able to explain the special powers that a player has, because by this point they'll have learned everything they need to know about the special powers, including paying with focus tokens, paying with the face of the die, or paying with life, which is represented by pizza in this game. Next, I talk about melee and ranged attacks, because people are interested in knowing how attacks work. You could cover melee and ranged attacks simultaneously, because they're pretty close in how they work. And also you could cover these double dice and talk about how you can't split the dice up, but you can add to enhance the attack. Since you already covered the attacks and how they work, covering the defense dice will be pretty easy. And by this point they'll already understand the battle dice and how the icons on the die actually enhance the number of dice you roll. And so you'll be able to briefly explain the shells as well as explain the damage. At this point you'll also be able to explain that, hey, look, the villain card has defense icons as well. And then you could explain the icons on the side or how the villain takes their turn. Remember, you don't have to cover the villain cards too much in depth because you're going to be playing the villain. Just talk about it so they get the concept. Usually I cover the movement icons last. Not because movement is hard in this game, it's actually relatively simple. But after you cover the movement icon, you can also talk about the terrain cards and how they affect the game. At this point, you're almost ready to play the game. Quickly talk about what happens to KO'd characters and then how to revive them again, because that's usually related to the victory conditions of the game. Talk about what the victory conditions are and emphasize what that means, because now everybody knows the rules. And then enjoy playing Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. So that's how I would teach Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. Looking forward to seeing you next time on Throw Punch Lunch. My name is Bobby, and this has been We'll Learn As We Go. Bye!